Hello everybody, it's just an hour before Shabbat comes in, and I must confess I wasn't planning to give another sermon before Shabbat, but the surprise announcement of the normalization of relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates is such an important moment that I thought it would be worth giving it some thought from the perspective of this week's Parasha Re'eh, which is going to be read in Shul tomorrow. So here's some thoughts on this momentous day, and I hope you'll enjoy sharing them with me. The surprise announcement yesterday of the normalization of relations between Israel and the United Arab Emirates represents a challenge for us all. Clearly, both sides have taken risks in making this step. The UAE has suffered alienation from Turkey, Iran and others by seeking normalization of relations with Israel, and they are accused of selling out the Palestinians for the sake of gains in the economy and security which stand to be made from cooperation with Israel. Israel has delayed the extension of rule over the West Bank as part of the negotiations, and this has disappointed many who saw the strengthening of Israeli sovereignty in the West Bank as a return to a natural state, to Israel governing what was historically Jewish land. Others will say that the peace dividend represents a net gain for Israel, and that the extension of Israeli governance has not been cancelled, only suspended. And who knows, perhaps the UAE peace deal will prove to be an icebreaker and others will follow suit. Many have hailed the courage and diplomacy of the Israeli, Emirati and American leaders. And truth be told, your view and my view on all of this make precious little difference, except that they do. So what does this have to do with you and me? And what does it matter what you and I think? The challenge for us all in this interesting situation comes from the opening section of our parasha, which reads, Re'eh anochi noten lifnechem hayom bracha uklala. See, I place before you today a blessing and a curse. Moshe explains that if we observe God's commandments, we will be blessed. Why does Moshe begin by saying, Re'eh, see, look here? He could just have said, Anochi noten lifnechem hayom. I am putting before you today, bracha uklala, a blessing and a curse. Why does it need to start with the word that gives the parasha its name, Re'eh, see? Besides, that word anochi, which Moshe uses, is a most emphatic word for I, and seems unusual coming from Moshe, the most humble and self-effacing of men. Stranger still, it was the first word used by God when addressing the Jewish people in the Ten Commandments. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am the Lord your God. Why then did Moshe choose to use this word with its Ten Commandments associations? Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch links Anochi to the Hebrew word anach, meaning a plumb line, an ancient device used by builders. When they wanted to check that vertical joints between bricks were indeed vertical, they would hold up a rope with a bit of lead on the end to help it to hang straight and true. They would know that any vertical line between two parallel lines, between two bricks parallel to that plumb line, was indeed straight up and down. Anochi means I am the central one by whom everything else is judged. It expresses God as the ultimate judge of right and wrong, the central straight line around which civilization and the universe revolve. Why then is Moshe using such a word to describe himself? Let's start by understanding that word Re'eh a bit more deeply. We read back in Parashat Mishpatim that the Jewish people had a spiritual vision of God after the giving of the Ten Commandments, and that same root is used, Vayir'u et Elokei Yisrael. Vayir'u means and they saw. Since they were seeing a vision of God who has no body, this can only mean that they had a spiritual vision, a prophetic revelation of divine glory. The God who had been hidden from them suddenly became visible. They understood in a flash of clarity that the world is just a dazzling concealment of God who created, guides and sustains everyone and everything. This is what Moshe was asking of us when he asked us to see. Remember God, he said. See him. Understand that all blessings and curses come from him. Yes, give credit to Netanyahu, to Trump, to Khalifa bin Zayed al Nahyan for promoting peace, if you think they have made good choices, if they have been courageous, public-spirited and honest. But remember that they are merely agents of God, that at the start of creation it was decreed that on 23rd of Av 5780, news of a finalized peace deal between the UAE and Israel would flash around the world. With this idea in mind, Moshe's use of the word Anochi also becomes easier. The Slonim Rebbe says that Moshe was hinting to the Anochi of the Ten Commandments. He told us to behold the ultimate I, God himself, the plumb line of creation and of history, who determines what is upright and what is crooked, what will stand for a lifetime or more, and what will crumble away because it was built wrong from the start. It is that God who introduced himself with the word Anochi who brings our blessings, and it is our duty to see him behind every blessing that we receive. And here is our challenge. God is so present and so necessary that at a historic moment like this, when human actors in a great international drama loom large and are lauded or lambasted in the media, we risk ignoring God like we ignore the air that we breathe, that forces to bind the elemental particles we are made of, the energy that enables us to live. Our challenge, therefore, is, even at a time like this, re'eh, to see, to acknowledge God's hand in every blessing, to turn to him in every crisis, to do what we have to do with an awareness that God will make everything turn out for the best, whatever we do or fail to do. To grasp that our choice is simply whether we will have the honour of moving the divine plan forward or the ignominy of trying unsuccessfully to hinder it. Our prayers in shul are one of the ways that we can sharpen our spiritual vision. So are our prayers at home, so is our Torah learning, so is every mitzvah, every spiritual engagement that we undertake. By serving God, by praying well, we can create a new vision of God and a new foundation of faith for our new year. We can respond to Moshe's amazing call of Re'eh, see, by saying, Ra'o Ra'inu, we have surely seen. Thanks for listening. Shabbat Shalom. May there be peace for us all.